You're watching Gearz.
Hey, if you watch Gearz very often, you know that every once in a while I like to roll in something that's unique, something that's different. Because gearheads aren't into just cars and trucks. No, man. They're into anything mechanical. If you think I'm kidding, just hang out with them for a little while. See where the conversation goes. It usually involves speculation on how to stick the biggest possible engine into the smallest vehicle. Kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it? The biggest engine in the smallest vehicle. Yeah, I know I've wondered about that before. So, when I heard about some guys that had a kit for a V8 powered Barstool, I had to check it out. I figured that you guys would want me to do that. The kit comes from a company called HossFly, and it starts out as a big, huge box of parts, some wheels and tires, and then this odd-looking chassis kind of thing. Now, you can get this in numerous different colors. We got two of them. We got a red one and a yellow one, and I'm gonna get this one over on the table, start putting it together, and you are gonna be surprised how well engineered this is. Now, obviously, on a project this crazy, the key element is the frame, because this is what's going to make or break it. Now take a look at this. This is all nice, thick, round tubing. You got all kinds of brackets welded in, threaded holes, cross members. I mean, everything is planned out and it goes a specific place. You're going to find that out as we put it together. Now, notice the axle, or in this case, the two axles. You got an axle stub on either side, supported with all kinds of nice bracing. Each one has its own little sprocket. It's ready to go. Now, notice the frame here, split in half, so you can pull it apart, stick the motor in, and bolt it back together. Of course, you got the solenoid already put on, place for the battery, place for the water pump, front of the engine bolts here, and you also have these cool pedals and linkage already put on. Now, in case you haven't realized, this is basically a V8 engine that you're gonna sit on top of and drive. Yeah. That's about as cool as it gets. So the first thing we're going to put on is wheels and tires and the steering. The rear tires are fat little slicks that are usually seen on junior dragsters. The front tires and spindles are standard go-kart style and just bolt onto the spindle hangers on the frame. Another piece borrowed from the go-kart and ATV world is this trick little steering box that bolts to the frame and connects to the spindles with little tie rods. Now, at this point, we are ready for the engine. And I know you're looking all over this thing for motor mounts. Well, forget it. You're not gonna find them, at least not in the traditional area. No, the back of the engine block bolts to this bracket here, and then the front bolts here. Now, I know some of you guys are going, oh, wait a minute, man, that's impossible. What about the water pump and the accessories and all the other stuff on the front of the engine, and what does this have to do with a bar stool? Good questions, man. We're gonna answer all that stuff. But the best way to answer it is to show you. So we're gonna move from this red one over to the yellow one because I already have a motor sitting in this one. Okay, first things first. HossFly gets their engines from a place called Groom's Engine Rebuilders, and they've come up with a really nice package for this kit. Now, basically it starts off as a newly rebuilt 305 small block Chevy long block, and then they stick a really nice cam in it so it has a rumpity-rump idle without being too radical, which is going to be important because basically you're going to be sitting on top of it. Now, since it is a long block, that means you're going to have to add some stuff that doesn't come with the kit. So we went to Edelbrock for the intake, Holley for the carburetor, Speedway Motors for all the chrome and accessories, and of course Low-Car for all the cables. Okay, basically we have an engine sitting on some wheels. So how does it move? That's the secret ingredient of this whole kit. It moves through a hydrostatic transmission, very similar to what you'd see on a garden tractor. Check this out. You have the flywheel, then you have a pulley, then you have this special hub adapter that bolts to the crank, and then that connects to the transmission. Now out here, you have sprockets on either side that run down a chain to a sprocket on the axle, and you adjust that chain with this bolt here. So you have garden tractor technology combined with some go-kart technology, and we're just using the V8 to spin it all. Now the question is this transmission strong enough to handle the torque of that V8? Well, HossFly says it is. We're gonna find out about that. While we're back here, I'm gonna take this alternator, turn it around, and bolt it to this bracket right here, because this belt is what turns it. Pretty cool, huh? You talk about thinking outside the box. All right, we're all up to speed on how it moves. Now, how does it steer? Well, pretty simple. The kit includes a nice polished column that connects to the steering box and uses a special bracket to mount to the front of the engine. The ignition switch mounts in the bracket, and then it's all topped off with a mahogany Grant steering wheel. Sweet. Hey, welcome back to Gearz, where today we are building one of the craziest things that you've probably ever seen, a V8 powered bar stool. Now, if your question is, why would you want to do that? Well, the answer is, why not? I mean, gearheads have always been wondering, what is the smallest possible vehicle that you can stuff a V8 into and still have it be drivable and functional? Well, today we're attempting to find out using a kit from HossFly. So let's get back to it. Now, there's not a lot of wiring on a project like this because there's no heat or headlights or anything like that, but there is some, but it's just basic automotive wiring. Notice we have a simple fuse box here. That's going to supply power to the electric fans and the fuel pump and the water pump. And then once we get everything all wired up, we'll just tuck everything up nice here out of the way. And that's one of the cool things about a project like this, or a dirt bike, or a go-kart, or a quad, or something like that. It gives you a basic understanding of how a vehicle moves and how it runs and how it steers, but you don't have to do a high-dollar restoration on some car or truck. Okay, I know the big question that's burning in your mind. What about coolant? What about the water pump? I mean, there's nothing on the front of the engine. Matter of fact, the front of the engine is bolted to the frame here. That's because we're going to use an electric water pump. Now, the kit comes with this special tubing that bolts to the water outlets. The water flows down the side, down to the water pump that's bolted to the frame. At this point, the coolant flows from the water pump to the radiator. Now, I know what you're thinking, radiator? This thing's got a radiator on it? Yeah, it's got to, if we're gonna keep the engine cool while we're driving it. The question is, where's the radiator gonna go? That's what I'm about to show you. The radiator is a really nice polished aluminum unit that also comes with a chrome electric fan. Now, not just to look good, this will get the airflow going through the radiator and help the radiator do its job. Now, once you have the fan mounted to the radiator, all you have to do is set it in place on the frame mounts. Then bolt the upper brackets and shrouding in place to hold it in. And finally, just make your connections. At this point, we're ready for the gas tank. And in true hot rod fashion, you have a little keg type tank. And it's just a matter of bolting it to the supplied brackets, bolting it in place, and hooking it up. The battery has its own special box right on the side of the frame. And it even comes with this slick little chrome cover to help hide it. Now at this point, we got us a pretty cool looking rig going here. But I know you're wondering about something, exhaust, because that ain't gonna get it running right out of the heads. Well, we got that covered too. Let's take a look. The kit comes with these zoomy style headers that are gonna look really cool, except for one thing. You can't mount them like this in the traditional way because they're gonna hit the tire. No, what you gotta do is turn them upside down and mount them on the other side like this. That's gonna be cool. They even come with their own little heat shield so you don't burn your leg. Now what this is gonna do is have the exhaust blowing out right here, which is gonna put it right about waist level to people walking by. This is gonna be fun. All right, we have gas in the tank, coolant in the radiator. We've made one final check. Everything's ready to go, except where we're gonna sit. That is gonna be a little rough. Fortunately, since we're using this low-profile air cleaner with a flat top, that allows us to mount the genuine cushion of a bar stool, making this officially a bar stool. And definitely the smallest thing that I have ever stuffed a V8 in. Now, the question is, does it run? Is it cool? Is it fast? What does it do? Or have we just created a very expensive piece of junk? Well, there's only one way to find out. Hey, we're back and about to take a test drive on one of the wildest vehicles ever conceived, this V8 powered bar stool by HossFly. Now, I know the question that is burning in your mind, how in the world are we going to control this sucker with a V8 engine and a garden tractor transmission? Well, let's take a look. This lever here is for the transmission. You just pull it out and you're in neutral, push it in and you're in drive, ready to go. The pedal on the right is for the throttle, and as you can see, it operates it in a traditional sense. So at least there's something reasonably normal on this thing. The pedal on the left side is for the hydrostatic transmission. You push it down, you go forward. The further you push it, the faster you go, especially if you're pushing on the pedal on the other side. And if you want to go in reverse, you just pull it back. Now, notice I have not said anything about brakes. That's because you don't have any. Not in the traditional sense anyway. Oh, this just gets better and better. No, the brakes are in the hydrostatic transmission. When you let up on the pedal, it naturally brakes the transmission and brings the vehicle to a stop. And that is going to take some getting used to, I can promise you that. Now, you do have a traditional emergency brake back here. You push it down and it will lock the rear tires. However, that doesn't seem like the smartest thing to do if you're trying to control this thing, to turn around and hit that brake. That's probably something that you do just before you bail off of it. Want to see a wheelie? A wheelie? Oh, that was awesome, man! You're probably wondering just exactly what you would use something like this for. Well, believe it or not, some guys use it to pull the race cars out on the racetrack. Others use it for parades or car shows, and we'll do all that. But mostly we're going to use it to pull new projects into the shop. You know, one of the most popular upgrades to do to a vehicle today is to upgrade the exhaust system. Not just because it sounds better, it also gives you more performance and it looks good too. And the aftermarket is full of great products. So the question becomes, what is the best muffler to put on your car or truck? Well, the answer comes in understanding what is out there and how it operates. That's what we're going to try to help you do. Now, in the beginning, you just had stock mufflers, and that was unacceptable. So guys just cut them off and ran straight pipes or side pipes. Of course, that was illegal and caused all kinds of problems until the first performance mufflers hit the street in the form of the glass pack, like these from Cherry Bomb. Now, basically, the glass pack was nothing more than a straight pipe with holes or louvers punched in it, and then that was surrounded by a packing of fiberglass. Now, when the exhaust blew through the muffler, some of that high-frequency sound and volume was absorbed by the fiberglass. So you had a great hot rod tone coming out the end. They flowed like crazy, and they were legal, at least until that fiberglass burned out. Now, the problem that some people had with the glass pack is obviously there is not a lot of muffling going on there. So they were still a little loud, still a little radical for some people, especially the cruiser crowd. And that is where the turbo muffler came in. The turbo muffler looked a lot like a stock muffler on the outside. And on the inside, oh, it was a lot different. Check it out. The flow came in here, bounced across this chamber, up the side, across the chamber, and then out. Now, did you notice all the holes and perforations here? That's where all your high-frequency sound and volume goes. So the turbo had a nice, low, mellow rumble. Now, I know all of this looks very restrictive, but believe it or not, the turbo actually flowed pretty decent, and it was a lot quieter than the glass pack. So, for the longest time, you had two choices, the glass pack and the turbo. Then, sometime in the 80s, along came the chambered muffler. Now, this was a completely different approach than what people had seen so far. Notice there's no fiberglass packing, there's no perforations to absorb sound, nothing like that. You just have a big, wide open chamber. Now, the exhaust came in and was just moved around by baffles and dividers that directed it in different ways, which created low pressure areas for the high frequency sound and volume to go. It basically used sound waves against each other to cancel each other out without affecting the flow. So these things flowed like crazy, and they had their own unique sound. They were pretty quiet at idle. When you stepped down on it, they had this big, wide open roar. People loved that. So for a while, you had three choices. The newest style of performance muffler to hit the market is something like this Cherry Bomb Vortex. Now, if you look closely, you're gonna see a little bit of all these mufflers built into this style muffler. Take a look at this thing. The flow comes in here. Notice you have baffles that split the flow. Then you have this low pressure area to pull some of that high frequency sound. And also notice you've got perforations in the side, so more sound is absorbed into the stainless steel and fiberglass packing. But you also have almost a straight through design. So basically, you're looking at a chambered turbo glass pack. And it has got a great high performance sound, and it will outflow darn near everything on the market. So you have yet another choice, and that's the best part about this performance muffler market. Every one of these mufflers is still available, so you can literally match the look and the sound and the style to whatever you're driving, whether it be a 4x4 or a car or a truck or a street machine, whatever. And I don't know about you, but that sounds like a pretty cool deal to me.
And now, what are you working on?
Today's What Are You Working On is one of my favorite vehicles. It's a 1960 Willys Wagon. Yeah. It's owned by a kid named Carl Box, and he's from Rohnert Park, California. And he says that 3 years ago he bought this truck for $1,500. Check it out. I tell you what, Carl, for $1,500, you got a heck of a deal. Being from California, I doubt there's any rust on it. He says here that the truck ran when he got it, but it needed some body and some interior work. The engine is a 351 Windsor out of a '76 Ford truck, check it out. If you'll notice very carefully, it has power steering and power brakes on it. So this thing's set up as a daily driver. That'd be a great rig to drive every day, man. You'll be the envy of Rohnert Park, California. Now, he said that the axles are stock, but he's in the process of replacing them with some from a '79 Jeep Wagoneer. Yeah, that's a wise move. You'd blow those stock axles all to pieces with that V8. That's also a good tip. A lot of people don't realize that these later Jeep Wagoneers have those Dana 44s in them that will almost bolt underneath these early Jeeps exactly. Very little modification. It's a great way to get some cheap axles in there if you can find them. Now, he said there was no interior in the vehicle, but there is now. Check this out. It's all painted up, looking good. Got his B&M shifter in it, door panels, and Carl says he did all the paint and bodywork himself, and to prove it, here's a shot of him grinding and sanding and then shooting on the primer. Now, if you think none of that work is worth it, take a look at the final thing. Yeah, a two-tone orange and white Jeep Willys Wagon. Looks like a big creamsicle, man. These Willys Wagons look great as a two-tone. So Carl, great job, man. You are gonna have a lot of fun driving this rig around. Now the rest of you guys, make sure that you're spending some time out there in your shop, man. You need to do this to relieve the stress from everyday life. And as you're working on your project, make sure you send some pictures in. We'll see if we can get it on the air. All right, that takes care of the show for today. Next week, we are going to be talking about six-packs, which is kind of fitting since we are sitting here with our V8-powered Barstool. You might want to watch your crotch there, Hoss.